Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, that red area, the red shaded area here, that's a winter storm warning. That's for the Eastern Brooks Range for tonight until 6 a.m. Wednesday morning for 3 to 6 inches of snow, with the heaviest amounts, of course, falling in the higher elevations. Then there are winter weather advisories for tonight until 6 a.m. tomorrow here for the upper Yukon Valley into the northern Koyukuk Valley. Say doesn't actually include Bettles or southward, and then also the the northern part of the Yukon Flats area for possible accumulations of snow. Again, the heaviest amounts, best chance will be with higher elevation areas, and that's out for tonight only, and then ends at 6 a.m. And then we still have the flood advisory here. The reason the greater Fairbanks area is illuminated in Tanana, that's for the flood advisory along the Tanana River from Fairbanks to just east of Tanana, and continued high water levels and possible minor flooding continues there. And I believe that's out until midday Wednesday as well. And on to the fire danger chart. Lost it out here over the southwest there from Bristol Bay due to the moisture that came in and rainfall, light rainfall, but some areas picked up what are classified as wetting rains, which is a 1/10 of an inch or more, with a soaking rain being 1/2 an inch. Didn't get that much out there. The southeast coast did in the southern panhandle, but not out here. But it was enough to knock the fire danger down below the high levels there, and even Kodiak Island, some light rain moving across the island today. Cloudier, cooler, wetter conditions. The state airport had picked up about 2/100 of an inch since it started a few hours ago. So definitely improving here, and still about the same as yesterday here for the Kenai Peninsula up into Turnagain Arm, Knik Valley, and Chugach Mountains on into the Madawaska-Susitna Valley. Still areas of high to very high fire danger there. And also showing back up now along in the valley here of the Copper River Basin, areas of high to very high, but no extreme anywhere in the state. And moving onto satellite imagery, you see a pretty snappy storm here winding up as it approaches and moves just west of the Queen Charlotte Islands, and a warm front bringing really heavy rains into the southeast coast, southern areas there with, for example, let's see, Klawock, and there's another location there, Shelter Cove, both picking up anywhere from about over 3 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, with Ketchikan having, I'm sorry, it wasn't Klawock, Ketchikan and Shelter Cove. Ketchikan picked up 3.08 inches, Shelter Cove had 3.18. Now Klawock and Wrangell, they picked up about 2/3 of an inch there, and then it really cuts off right about along this line here. Dry up to the northwest there, some sunshine along the North Gulf Coast, smoke, some clouds, and a lot of clouds here over the Copper River Basin northward across the eastern interior. That due to a series of upper level disturbances dropping southward. In fact, the clouds are enhancing across from about the Kenai Peninsula up in across the Talkeetna's Copper River Basin, with some showers beginning to develop today. That due to, again, trough coming down. And then we've got this moisture sliding eastward. That brought the rain into Kodiak and Kamishak Bay areas there, with Togiak picking up about, well, 1/4 of an inch in the last 24 hours, as well as Pilot Point. Otherwise, amounts were less than that most areas, and really clearing out now. I start to see some clearing this afternoon here over the Kuskokwim Delta areas up into the Kuskokwim Valley. And then a lot of clouds from the Brooks Range on back out along the Arctic coast there. But so far, precipitation amounts, not too much. A couple of the heavier ones were 5/100 of an inch occurring at Umiat Airfield, while Barter Island picked about 4/100 of an inch. Everywhere else that had some was more like 1 or 2/100. But that should increase as that system drops in. And we got a front stretched out along and just north of the central Aleutians there, but bringing some moisture into the Fox Islands as this exits. We'll put that one more time. You see the movement there. Trying to push off to the east here. This band sort of caught up in easterly flow and not moving too much. Won't make much more of a northward progression with high pressure up over the northern Bering Sea. And we've got on the chart today, high center actually centered back over along the Russian coast there. And the front right along, actually now it's just a shade north of the Adak-Atka area. But then we got this weak disturbance that a couple of days ago dropped out of the Russian Far East and tracked southeastward, now turning eastward and spreading the moisture and across Bristol Bay to Kodiak Island. To the north, dry, some sunshine over the central interior, smoke, again, Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, possibly into the valleys there. Again, but didn't seem quite as thick as yesterday. And then showers also developing with clouds enhancing here into the Talkeetnas, Chugach a little bit along the Alaska Range due to the digging nature of this upper level trough that actually extends from the main center, which is pretty active, shows up a lot better in the upper air than it does at the surface. But there is a surface reflection here, and it extends all the way down, links up with this storm there approaching the Queen Charlotte Islands and that warm front and the moderate to heavy rain associated with it. For tonight, that lifts northward there with the center coming up over the southern panhandle, so that's going to keep the winds from getting too terribly strong. Most of the wind action will be down over the Queen Charlottes and along the British Columbia coast. Otherwise, rain continues, but should begin to not be as heavy, although probably get another good dose tonight here, good solid rain, especially this evening. And then that edge shifts up to the north a little bit, may get into Juneau, kind of hard to say for Haines, and maybe probably not for Elfin Cove. Yakutat is variably cloudy, and rain or snow, depending on your elevation here up over the interior areas, northeast interior, at the Brooks Range under the winter storm warning, 3 to 6 inches of snow possible. Fair here back in the west, and that front driving eastward to the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula, pushing some rain into possibly Cold Bay, more likely False Paso and maybe King Cove. A few showers to the central Aleutians. For tomorrow, we still basically got ridging a high pressure here over the northern Bering Sea, although it's not very strong. The trough along and now south of the Aleutians there. So actually that front tends to come southward and weakens just into a trough there with a new low center forming farther to the west. It stays wet here for the Alaska Peninsula. Rain pushing northeastward, but it will not make Kodiak Island. In fact, you're going to see tonight those showers will end and pull off to the west there, and you should see some partly sunny skies tomorrow afternoon. So we'll have probably a smoke advisory here for the Kenai Peninsula tonight, and then that'll probably expire tomorrow morning as conditions improve a little bit. And again, upper disturbances coming southward of that main upper level trough will keep a chance of showers and keep it unsettled from the eastern Alaska Range all the way up to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Another thing dropping down could bring a chance of some light moisture to the western Beaufort Sea coast. Improving here over this panhandle, especially in the afternoon. Rain will be slower to end here in the south there with that trough swinging through, but you're going to see increasing sunshine, drier conditions pulling southeastward throughout the afternoon there. And moving on to Thursday, that high moves across the area tomorrow night. And in the afternoon again, wind and rain on the increase. The next storm moving right on in there. And we also got easterly flow on the north side of that will be pulling moisture westward here right into the Kenai Peninsula, southern Kenai Peninsula, into Kamishak Bay, even some showers probably for Kodiak Island. Partly sunny, partly to mostly sunny there for Bristol Bay. And upper level low pressure here over the central interior. That's going to kick off a few showers upper Tanana Valley to the central interior and maybe into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, possibly along the Alaska Range. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny Copper River Basin, as well as the Koyukuk and Selawik Kobuk Valley areas. Seward Peninsula dry. Fog here for the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island, as well as the Pribilofs. And still a couple of disturbances keep it damp and unsettled up there along the Arctic coast, while out to the west, weak low pressure and IFR for sure, with clouds, fog, and drizzle. For lows tonight, mid to upper 30s here over the interior. Coldest will be over the Brooks Range there in the lower 30s. Of course, you'll get the snow with that. And then mid to upper 30s, eastern Arctic coast. 40s here in the west and 40s, lower 50s for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow, 68 to 73 for Bristol Bay, into the mid 60s there for the southwest interior, and 60s here, maybe 70s again. Let's say 67 today at Big Lake was a warm spot in the state, and you probably see that again tomorrow, 50s for the Panhandle, and then temperatures into the 40s and 50s up over the northeast interior, even the Arctic coast. For the lows the following morning, not much of a drop up there, still in the mid to upper 30s for your overnight lows, and right around the freeze point there for Arctic Village and Anatuvik Pass, Adigan, those areas, Chandalar Lake. Upper 30s down the eastern interior, mid 30s there, Gulkana, 40s, lower 50s over the southeast coast, and upper 40s here along the southwest coast, near 50 for the Pribilofs, and mid 50s there for the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians. Highs 68 to 73 again, Bristol Bay, and 65 to 70s to Sitna Valley, 50s in the Panhandle, 40s along the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, solid IFR here for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians into the Alaska Peninsula for Wednesday morning. Mostly VFR here in the interior, and some marginal VFR down about into the White Mountains there, north of Fairbanks, and becoming IFR before you reach the southern slopes of the Eastern Brooks Range. IFR Arctic coast, part of the North Slope. Some marginal VFR here, some of that, or mostly smoke here, Kenai Peninsula northward across Turnagain Arm into the Manuska Valley. Maybe there's a Sitna Valley here, and some of that could be lower clouds as well. VFR, Copper River Basin, IFR with the moisture down over the southern southeast coast. And for this afternoon, IFR diminishing with VFR on the increase here for the Panhandle. And then we've got marginal VFR possible from, again, due to smoke over south central Alaska. Really no change out over the Bering Sea. And moving into Thursday morning, IFR pretty well locked in over the central and western North Slope, and roughly from, say, New Ixit there, or Dead Horse, Prudhoe Bay, westward there on the Arctic coast. No change over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians, still in the IFR zone, except back off the coast a little bit more here. So it looks like the south side of the Alaska Peninsula, vulnerable to IFR, VFR Bristol Bay, marginal VFR again, kind of smoky, Kenai Peninsula, northward there toward the Talkeetnas, and looks like some marginal VFR here over the eastern Alaska Range, and from about Delta Junction on down to the Northway Tok area, maybe Nabesna, and marginal for the Panhandle. Afternoon, IFR on the increase here, right up to the coastline with the next storm in the late afternoon there, with marginal VFR otherwise across the inside waters of the southeast coast. That IFR right up along the coastline there, Cape St. Elias, just touching the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula and across Fognak Island. And again, some mixed marginal VFR here due to mixed conditions, smoke, maybe clouds, whatever there in over Kenai Peninsula up across the Talkeetna Mountains, eastern Alaska Range. Here through the north central interior, we've got pretty good conditions. And then from the Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, IFR, Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island and the Strait, Aleutians, IFR. And for the passes tomorrow, we've got marginal VFR there for the north side of both Anatuvik and Adigan passes, with Adigan, as I mentioned, VFR with marginal conditions possible on the northern entrance there. It's just a possibility for both passes. And Lake Clark-Merrill, though, another VFR day for rainy VFR. Windy looks VFR. And Isabel, as well, has been tested VFR, but Portage, you'll be kind of looking at rather marginal conditions tomorrow due to smoke, maybe clouds. And same thing for Portage, occasional marginal VFR. And then for the Chilkoot and White passes, VFR. And moving on to the freezing levels, still pretty chilly up here over the eastern North Slope into the Brooks Range, about 2,000 feet, and of course at the surface during the morning hours here. Also higher elevations here, the 32-degree isotherm intersecting the mountains there here during the early morning hours on Wednesday, right just north of the Panhandle. Otherwise about 6,000 to 8,000 feet across the southeast coast, and up to 10 to 12,000 there for the eastern Aleutians. And for icing, front and moisture pushing in across the Alaska Peninsula, mostly light rime icing expected areas of, but where the southeast winds kind of get some terrain enhancement, you could see some considerable moderate there right along the lee side of the range there, above about 8,000 feet. Just a slight chance here over the eastern interior with that upper level disturbance that's dropping southward. And the moisture now beginning to exit tomorrow afternoon the southeast coast. So the bulk of it by mid-afternoon tomorrow should be off into Canada. And the jet stream, got really almost a full latitude trough here from the Arctic extending across the eastern interior, right on down across the Panhandle. Otherwise the main jet stream well to the south, and 9,000 feet northwest flow here over the northern and eastern part of the state, but only at 10 to 15 knots. Pretty light, some weak ridging through here, so 5 to 10 knot winds. Brisker westerlies in the Panhandle, 25 to 30 knots there. central and southern areas, and maybe up to 20 for the Alaska Peninsula. Generally easterly, 15 or 10 to 25 across the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. 3,000 feet, about the same pattern here, with the light winds from the northwest, variable under the ridge, and 15 to 20 at 3,000 feet. That translates into some possible moderate chop for small aircraft, Prince of Wales Island to Port Alexander, and along the Alaska Peninsula.
Welcome back to another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider, and joining me again is Cindy Preller. She's the Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska Region's National Weather Service. Thanks again for joining us, Cindy.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Sure thing. And I love saying Tsunami Program Manager for Alaska's National Weather Service because that's not weather. Why is the Tsunami Program part of the National Weather Service?
Well, it's because the Weather Service absolutely rocks at warning people for every kind of, devastating natural hazard.
Mm-hmm. The mission of the Weather Service is to protect life and property. And so how does the Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer, Alaska, which is a very unique office, again, within the Weather Service, it's not weather, how do those folks help us protect life and property?
The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palmer is a national warning center, and we analyze seismic traces 24/7 all around the world. So when there's an earthquake anywhere on the planet, we see it and analyze it within minutes.
Within minutes, and
Within
there's
minutes.
actually a goal to have it under, was it 5 minutes?
If there is a tsunami warning to be issued for continental America, we must get that out, or shoot to get that out in 5 minutes.
Okay. Now that's not something I have ever learned to do, so I know it would be a struggle for me to do that under probably hours, but it is fascinating to watch, and the office is open on a regular basis for tours, right?
Absolutely, come by Friday.
Okay.
Yep, every Friday at 1, 2, and 3 p.m. and they're open public free tours. And it's the most interesting place on the planet. You really should check it out.
Okay, and the office team is made up of people that are earth scientists, not meteorologists or atmospheric scientists. Talk about some of the types of people that work there.
Right, we are out of place in our National Weather Service, but we are geologists, geophysicists, oceanographers. We even have an astrophysicist on board, computer software architects, electronic technicians that are brilliant and innovative. Our software is all written in-house. Our instrumentation is designed in-house. So it's a really, really unique place, and it's just a couple handfuls of people that work there. So
sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways to get a tsunami alert message is on Twitter.
Right.
And I can follow the Twitter address, and we'll put that up on the screen for you there. But it's usually a very quick message that tells you initially what the magnitude of an earthquake could be and about where its epicenter was. What are some of the other ways that you can get that alert message?
Well, Twitter's my favorite too.
Yeah.
And you don't even need a Twitter account to receive it. So
That's
just comes in like an SMS message. But you can also receive it via email, weather radio, of course, the crawler on your television screen, on the internet, Google Alerts.
Right.
Marine radio if you're out in harbors and boats. Actually, marine radio is probably,
yeah, it is a good one.
That's our partnership with the Coast Guard. We're really grateful for that, absolutely. But there's a variety of ways in dissemination.
Okay.
And locally, excuse me, I'm sorry, but locally in the communities, the sirens will go off as well.
Right. So lots of different ways to get that very important message very quickly when that matters to you. One of the ways that the Warning Center practices with communities is a test on a yearly basis, right?
Right.
How does that work?
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a controversial issue, but it's super important to help us warn better and really serve Alaskans. So the week of March 27th, the commemoration of the 1964 event, for that week we have a Tsunami Preparedness Week every year. We like communities to get out and do drills and practice and do everything we can to raise awareness. And part of that is a live code test where we actually issue the warning message live and we activate the emergency alert system, which means sirens go off, the TV crawler happens, and it's a test, 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 test.
We're
and
doing everything that would normally happen without the real threat of the tsunami, just to practice as much as possible.
Right, and this is a major partnership with the State of Alaska, Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, the Emergency Operations Center, and the Alaska Broadcasters Association. Without the media, we wouldn't be able to do this. So the three groups really work tightly together to do our best to warn, educate the public that this is happening, so they don't wonder and get scared about it. It has been remarkable what we've learned. I mean, it pretty much breaks somewhere every time, but then we fix it, and it gets better. So a quick example is just a few years ago, we used to, when we issued a message, it would activate the entire state. Right? I mean, Kotzebue, Nome, Bethel, everybody would be in tsunami warning. And so now we can regionalize it to where the actual event is taking place. That's pretty huge.
Right. So identifying points of failure and also points of success, and making sure we continue down that successful path so that folks are warned as quickly and accurately as possible.
Absolutely. And you know, to get our communities involved, to prep themselves, prep their businesses, prep their tourism, prep their schools, you know, just make this an annual thing they need to be doing.
Right. So as citizens wanting to be prepared, we should be prepared to learn more about that test that's happening usually toward the end of March every year.
Right, and you should be happy that it's happening.
Right.
Instead of upset. Definitely be happy that it's happening.
Right. Just as we test tornado sirens in tornado country, we also have to test the tsunami program as well.
Right, because there isn't enough time. You know, for a local tsunami, the wave will arrive in less than 2 minutes. So it's super important that people know what to do.
Very good. Well, Cindy, thank you so much for helping us know more about the Tsunami Ready program and the test. And the Tsunami Warning Center is a very unique and very important job in the National Weather Service that is just fascinating to me every time I visit the office. So
it's the only one for the continent. You really should come check it out.
It's an international effort.
Yes.
Wonderful stuff. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Dave.
And thanks for joining us for another edition of Alaska Weather Facts. I'm Dave Snider. We'll see you next time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Looking at today's sea ice analysis. Way off the coast, that continues. So not a lot of difference from yesterday. So maybe a little farther back out from Wrangell Island, possibly. And this area looks like it's a little bit wider than it has been, say, going back several days. Anyway, the outlook, not a lot of change. Continuing slow melting along the ice edge, and it could possibly drift a little to the south. Anywhere along the ice fields here. May take a little bit of a movement southward over the next 5 days, but still no big changes that'll affect anything farther to the south. Coastal water forecast tomorrow, still some brisk winds along the south coast there at 25 knots for small craft advisories. Out of the west, seas as high as 12 feet. Southwest 20 for Clarence Strait. Stevens Passage south of 15. Lynn Canal, south winds 20 knots. West winds 20 knots on the north coast with 5 to 7 foot seas. And for Thursday, south 15 for Lynn Canal there with 3 foot seas, but the storm coming in brings those winds back up to full gales. Southerlies 40 knots in the afternoon. On the south coast, 13 foot seas, and gales from the southeast on the north coast, 35 to 40 knots, 10 to 12 foot seas. Small craft advisories develop over Clarence Strait for 25 knot winds from the southeast, and then gale force southeast gusts in store for Stevens Passage. Moving on to Prince William Sound, northwest 15 tomorrow, west 20 for the eastern North Gulf Coast, and west 15 for the western coast. Barren Island, south 15 knots, and pretty light winds, Kamishak Bay and Cook Inlet, south to southwest at 10, the seas running 2 to 3 feet. And for Thursday, northeast at 10 or variable 10, light winds anyway for Cook Inlet there with 2 foot seas, northeast 15, Kamishak Bay, Barren Islands, and the western North Gulf Coast, winds will be out of the northeast at 20 knots with seas running 6 to 7 feet or so. And Prince William Sound, northeast 15, 3 foot seas with small craft advisories. At this point in time, it looks like it'll stay below gales, but east 30 knots and 8 foot seas for the eastern North Gulf Coast. Kodiak Island, starting with Shelikof Strait, east at 10, east side of the island there, southwest 15, and Sitkinak to Castle Cape, southeast 20. And we got 25 knots small craft advisory winds from Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev here, seas at 8 feet. Bering Sea side of the peninsula east at 20 with 3 foot seas. East 15 for Bristol Bay. And for Thursday, light northerlies there for Bristol Bay at 2 foot seas. North 15 on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Small craft advisories on the Pacific side from Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape, north 25, seas at about 10 feet. And then we've got northeast 25 knot winds here from Sitkinak to Castle Cape, and that extends right up the east side of Kodiak Island. And moving on to the Fox Islands for Wednesday, tomorrow. Kind of a variable wind pattern here, north 20 on the south side on Unalaska Island, east 25 on the north side, and then variable 15 for Unmac Island, east-southeast 15 knots, central Aleutians, and then small craft advisories west of Adak, as high as 30 knots from Kiska to Shimia. And for Thursday, it becomes a little more uniform out there, northeast 20 knots, Shimia up toward Adak, and northeast 10 to 15 here for the central Aleutians, Unmac Island northeast at 10, Unalaska Island north to northwest 15 knots with 4 to 8 foot seas. And for the southwest coast here, south of Nunivak Island, east winds of 15 knots, northeast 15, or along the Yukon Delta coast out to St. Matthew Island, northeast 20 for the Pribilofs and north 15 for St. Lawrence Island. Thursday, north 20 for St. Lawrence Island from the Bering Strait right on down the Yukon Delta coast, north 15 south of Nunivak Island. Same forecast, north 15 for the Pribilofs and St. Matthew Island. Eastern Boulevard Sea coast, kind of variable at 10, what about sums it up in that area, 2 foot seas, light winds on the central and west side, northwest 10 here from, say, Cape Lisburne, becomes north 15 for the Chukchi Sea. And for Thursday, 25 knot winds, Wales to Cape Thompson with 5 foot seas, and then 20 knot winds there from Cape Thompson to, well, actually up the west side there, probably Point Lay, and then 15 knot winds out of the north of the central coast, staying light on the east side, west-northwest at 10. And for tonight, winter storm warning out for the Eastern Brooks Range for 3 to 6 inches of snow, heaviest to higher elevations. Winter weather advisories there for part of the Yukon, upper Yukon Valley and the part of the Koyukuk Valley for less snow than what the warning area will get. And smoke advisory here for the Kenai Peninsula, and that'll end tomorrow with this storm. A lot of more rain coming into the Panhandle, but wherever it's got the winds, those will diminish as that low center comes up over the southern areas. And rain advances eastward with this system, and on Sunday, the next storm pushing into the southeast coast with gale force winds and increasing rainfall. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.